afternoon, everyone, and welcome to YIVO's Facebook Live. My name's Shelly Freeman, and I am the Chief of Staff at YIVO. And this afternoon, I am absolutely delighted to have with me Kate Flannery, who is an amazing American actress and comedian, probably best known for her work throughout television, in particular her work on the series or her appearance in the series The Office and Dancing with the Stars. Welcome, Kate.
Hello. I'm
Kate
so excited.
Oh, we're delighted to have you. And Kate and I are going to talk about the Barry sisters in a bit, but I just wanted to tell the viewers, obviously a lot of you know, but for whoever doesn't know, YIVO has an incredible archive of over 23 million original documents, materials, artifacts, covering the life of Eastern European Jews around the world. And part of our collection is, or a big part we have, is on Yiddish theatre. And we have a lot of material about the Barry sisters, which includes records, sheet music, rare radio recordings, posters, and more. Now, the Barry sisters, previously known as the Bagelman sisters, were Yiddish popular music and jazz entertainers, which around the 1940s to early 70s, they were born in the Bronx, New York, to Ashkenazi Jewish parents who immigrated from the Russian and Austro-Hungarian empires. In their heyday, they performed on shows like The Ed Sullivan Show, the Johnny Carson Show, and they were actually one of the few American acts to tour the Soviet Union in 1959, and they actually toured with Ed Sullivan. Now, Kate has a deep admiration and love of the Barry sisters' music, also what it signifies about the immigrant American experience. So before we jump into the Barry sisters, Kate, I just wanted you to tell us a bit about your own professional journey, which when we had a chat is absolutely delightful and colourful. So let's hear it from you.
Well, I'll keep it brief because I'm old and I've been around for a long time, if I can. Most people know me as Meredith from The Office. It was the best 9 years of my life, I will say. And actually before that, I was probably best known for playing Neely O'Hara in the off-Broadway production, the stage-to-screen version of Valley of the Dolls, which was had a very big cult following for years. I studied theater in college. I studied at Second City and was lucky enough to get hired there. I worked at the Annoyance Theater in Chicago as well. I sang a little bit on and off. I had a comedy act for many years called the Lampshades, the Dying Lounge Act, I like to refer. And you know, I'm very, very lucky. I've had I've gotten to work with so many wonderful, amazing people and wonderful, amazing musicians. So it's such an honor to acknowledge and hopefully introduce the Barry sisters to younger people who should know about these extremely talented women.
Yeah, that's great. And I just have to ask, because I know we've had an earlier conversation, and I just wanted to, you were telling me that before you took off with The Office or something, you were waiting tables at a diner in LA. Can you just tell us a bit about that?
It was, my father called it the diner. It was a little fancier than that. I used to wait on a lot of older stars, and not older stars, but many different famous people at a restaurant in Beverly Hills called Kate Mantellini. I worked there for 7.5 years after a long stage of back and forth between New York and LA. I would say I was bi-coastal at one point because I had a restaurant job on both coasts and I was performing on both coasts. Crazy. But yes, and I actually kept my restaurant job up and through the first season of The Office because I didn't know if we were going to get picked up.
Oh my God, 9 seasons later, is that right?
Yes, thank goodness. Yeah, it worked out.
Brilliant. Okay, so one of the other things, we had the wonderful opportunity to talk, and you were telling me that you went to the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, and that was a wonderful experience for you, and you had a fabulous professor that taught Shakespeare, and you would attend those classes, but in the last 10 minutes of those classes, this professor that taught you Shakespeare would teach you 10 minutes of Yiddish. Can you tell us about that and why she did that?
Okay, well, this was Dr. Natalia, who she went on to write a very, very famous, influential book in the 1990s called Sexual Persona. This is just one of her many books that she wrote. She was a very fast-talking, mercurial, brilliant woman who's a Yale graduate who wanted to make sure that these actors graduated and weren't just dumb actors. So she explained how important it was to acknowledge the Yiddish contribution to the American theater. I mean, to the world's theater, but particularly to the American theater. And so we would have extra credit on every exam. She would ask questions about the Yiddish language, and and just making sure that we're tapped in and understood the importance, the play, the code. It's almost like you are entering into this club, this culture, and just making sure that we were extremely aware and reverent and and just knowledgeable.
Yeah, isn't that fantastic? I love that. And okay, so what interests you about the Yiddish language?
Well, what I love about the Yiddish language is that it is an amalgamation of so many ideas into one word. So every word could be explained in English with a paragraph, but in Yiddish, it's a word. So we understand we're there. It's a fast track. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I know that you said that you said to me that you used a Yiddish song as part of your comedy act.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, for a long time, I actually still do a comedy lounge act. I like to call it my dying lounge act, the Lampshades. We generally do mashups of 70s and 80s songs, but we also do a song in Yiddish called Yeshli, which is based on a Brazil 66 song. Our accompanist, Dave Adler, he went to Hebrew camp, and this was a song that he knew, but it's in Yiddish. And I can't tell you how many times we've performed it live where someone in the audience will come up and say, "Oh my gosh, I learned that when I was at camp," or, and it's just, again, there's more meaning in the Yiddish version than there is in the American version, for sure.
Yeah. And so you weaved it in and you've got a lot of laughs.
Yes, just because of the absurdity of the translation that some people already know, which is, again, the familiar with the unfamiliar, and then the people who are familiar with the unfamiliar. So yeah, bridging gaps.
It works. Yes. It works. Okay, now we're going to go on to the Barry Sisters. Yes. What is it about the Barry Sisters, that music that you love, that you admire? What is it that draws you to them?
They are so incredibly skilled and talented. First of all, they're beautiful and they're so in sync, but their talent, not only their choices of song, their arrangements are beyond brilliant. I mean, they're so representative. The ones I'm most in love with are the arrangements from the late 50s, early 60s, because they're so ambitious and rightly so, because they're so talented vocally, stylistically. I mean, they're just magic.
Brilliant. And what's the first album you bought? And I think you bought it at a thrift shop. Is that right?
I did, and I have it right here. It's the Barry Sisters singing Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
So fantastic. And it's very ambitious that they tackled the entire cast album. The soundtrack. They actually do every single song, which is amazing, including the "Do You Love Me? Do I What?" They get everything. I mean, everything they do is right on. Just
top notch.
Musicians, the best arrangements, fun, thoughtful, kind. Just everything you want in music. Makes you feel, makes you smile.
Brilliant. Okay, so more recently, you have a musical duo with Jane Lynch.
Yes, I am lucky enough to be, I consider myself Jane Lynch's sidekick on stage.
Okay.
It's an old expression, but yes, we have a music comedy act that we do. We call it an anti-cabaret act, because I think we don't want anyone to be limited by the concept of just cabaret. We try to have a little more fun and break out. We're working with great musicians, the Tony Guerrero Quintet. And sometimes we sing with Tim Davis, who was the vocal arranger on Glee. And we just have, it's a joy. It's the great.
And how long have you been doing that? And you perform across the country?
We do. Well, we've been doing it steadily for the last 5 years. Jane and I sang
Yes.
it years ago,
Yeah.
but we were lucky enough to get to take it to another level. Someone had asked Jane to after when Glee ended, if they asked her if she wanted to do a show in New York, just a cabaret act, and so she asked me because we had sung together in benefits, and she didn't want to do it by herself. So it's an honor to be her sidekick. So we have great fun. We played terrific places. We did a residency at the Carlisle with our non-Christmas show, Two Lost Souls. We played the Kennedy Center, the Lyric Opera in Chicago. I mean, crazy.
Wow.
I mean, we everywhere, many performing arts centers. And then our Christmas album did very, very well. A Swinging Little Christmas was in the Billboard Top 10 for weeks. And that's afforded us a Christmas tour for the last 4 years. That's been amazing and ridiculous. And, like we say, we're kind of like the Rat Pack, but with a couple of broads.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, and for anyone that hasn't seen it, you just need to Google the two of them and you watch their act, and it's infectious. It just gives you a big high. But here's the question to you both, to you, I should say. So in amongst that repertoire, you perform a Barry Sisters song, you perform a song from Fiddler on the Roof. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But sort of which Barry Sisters song do you sing and why? And anyway, I'll let you talk about why that's so interesting as well.
We first, we started with My Love because it's the greatest arrangement ever heard. This song is a ballad in the show, but the way the Barry Sisters do it, it's uplifting. The brass is amazing. The brass arrangement alone is going to blow you away. Not to mention the vocals. I mean, we're just trying to be the Barry Sisters. I mean, they are head and shoulders above us, let me tell you. But but it's just fun. And then we also do By Mir Bistashane, which is kind of half in English and half in Yiddish. So it's, again, it's a throwback because both Jane and I have parents that are older. My dad was in World War II, and I think her dad was too. They come from a certain era, and it's something that we grew up with. So it's really fun because the Barry Sisters version is so terrific, and our musicians love it because it's so fun for them to play.
I have to say, I mean, you can talk about it, but you and Jane definitely didn't come from a Jewish Yiddish household, did you?
No, we're a couple of Irish gals singing the Barry Sisters. But I mean, it's so crazy to me to think that the Begelman sisters had to change their name to the Barry Sisters. And of course, Barry is a very Irish name. So the irony is just crazy. And show business is so crazy back in the 50s when you actually had to change your name. Thank God that's changed.
That's changed now. So
Begelman sisters, please, we want to know, we would love
Begelman sisters, yes. So thinking about the Barry sisters / the Begelman sisters, the immigrant experience in America and generations gone by, I suppose more on a serious note, like what comes up for you?
Well, my grandparents were immigrants, and they struggled and worked extremely hard. And I know my dad, my grandfather started a tavern, a saloon, if you will. My dad took it over when my grandfather died in the early 50s. And they were people of the community. People knew where they were. They actually met they met in Philadelphia, which is so crazy, but they met at like a butler and maids party because the owners of the house were in Florida for the winter. Crazy. So, I understand the struggle so well. And I understand that the sense of, growing up in Philadelphia, and, my Irish family settled in Philadelphia and New York. So we would, kind of travel this track, and we had, many immigrant neighbors, and, nothing was ever lost on us about, how hard they worked and how much they cared, and the obstacles that they faced, and, the struggles and the setbacks, but just the persistence and the love that they have for their kids. And, I feel like Philadelphia and New York are so concentrated with, like, everyone is a product of an immigrant pretty much. Maybe a small percentage not, but most of the real people are my people, I should say.
Just the ability for the second generation to get on and thrive using their difference, their ethnicity as well.
Right. Because I do think that there was, some people have a need. I think there was a sense of obligation to conform in a way, or, but I don't know. I think that the beautiful thing about, particularly about the theater in New York, is that it really is such a melting pot of so many cultures, and particularly Yiddish, which is, you know, why Camille Paglia had us learn and study Yiddish during a Shakespeare class, because she thought it's that important.
I love that. Okay, so just going back to you again, your fascinating and amazing career. So when things get back to normal, whatever that's going to look like, what are your future plans?
Well, Jane and I have several live tours that we will pick up when this is over. And, you know, I'll just continue. I also write. I'm sure I'll continue to do live things. And I don't know what's next as far as television and film right now, but, you know, we will persist. We will go on, you know, and tell stories. And I'm also writing a memoir, just because I realize that it's really not about me as so much as the people that gave up so much for me to be where I am today.
So it's a memoir about you?
Yes,
your family?
And my relationship with my father, because I realized that part of why I kept my restaurant job, my dad was still behind the bar at the age of 87, and we connected so well. How'd you do? Who'd you wait? You know, I mean, it's crazy, you know. And and at the time I was waiting on Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner and Anne Bancroft and Estelle Reiner, you know, just amazing Billy Wilder and crazy, wonderful, interesting people that sometimes were nice to me and sometimes not.
That's so good. Well, you definitely I'm really excited for that memoir to come out. It sounds like it'll be very rich and fascinating. And I love what you said to me in one of our earlier discussions, and we won't spend too much time on this, but just thinking about the previous generations and what they went through, the stuff that they went through. And in a sense, this terrible pandemic, you know, COVID, what we're going through, my generation at least, and in a Western society, it's the first thing that has really inconvenienced us. But if you know, the way you phrased that in one of our conversations, I thought it was just so on the money.
Well, you know, my dad is he's 96 and he's still here completely. And he's happy to be here. And, you know, he was a prisoner of war for over a year in Germany during World War II. And I feel like he's a lesson in patience and courage, because he wakes up every day happy to be here. And so despite our inconveniences right now, you know, we're just asked to be home right now watching TV. I mean, the comparison is insane.
Yeah.
And also put out, annoyed and scared of this, but we really have a luxury that they didn't have, that generation, for sure.
Yeah, it's good to have that perspective. Now, as we wind up, I have to ask you, what is your favorite Yiddish expression?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. How much time you got?
That's your top two.
Well, I can say chutzpah, kvel, and mensch. Those are my top three. Those are my top three, right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And mensch says it all. I love that. Okay.
Yes.
It's all right.
I have one sentence because I'm going to brag. Okay. So I remember having to come up with a sentence that was mostly in Yiddish in college, and I wrote it down so I could remember. If you have the chutzpah to filch tchotchkes from a yenta, you must be a putz.
I love it. And you remember it from all this time. That's a Yiddish/English fusion for everyone.
It is, right? I mean,
English/fusion. Excellent.
There's too many cobwebs in my brain to do a full Yiddish sentence. I'm sorry.
No, but we're very impressed with that, Kate. We're very impressed. Okay, so I want to say this, that the viewers, many of the viewers will know this, but YIVO has a very lively and rich public programs agenda. And we generally have them in person, and they're very well attended, always very interesting. During the pandemic, we've had to do most of them online, which has been amazing too. We've got incredible numbers. And not only the beauty about that is that we're global. You know, we have people from all around the world. But when things get back to normal and we can start doing them again in person, I would like to, in front of everyone here, invite you and Jane to come on and do a Barry Sisters performance for us. What do you say?
I say, what time? I'll be there with bells on.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that amazing? That is so exciting. That is so exciting. Okay, viewers, something very exciting to look forward to. We will keep you posted on the details as soon as we know.
It would be my honor, and I'm sure Jane's too.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And we've already talked about this because we're so excited about the idea, and the performance would also be able to put on display the archival material that we have about the Barry sisters.
So great. Well, I mean, and trust me, you have to watch the real Barry sisters. Please, 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 please. Everyone must. Everyone must.
All right. So to end off, we're gonna go out with a clip of Jane and Kate singing "Far from the Home I Love," which was the Barry sisters sang that. And as Kate mentioned, in the movie, in the show that everyone's seen, it's very melancholy, but you have done it in a very upbeat, jazzy way.
A Barry sisters.
Barry sisters, sorry.
This is a complete homage to their arrangement. We have not changed one note, not one note in their arrangement. This is an homage.
All right, that's right, I should say that. And so I want to, again, so we're going to end on that clip. And before we sign off, I do want to say a big shout out to Michael Kirker from ASCAP. Michael is the reason that Kate is with us today. Michael reached out to Kate and connected us, so we're very grateful to him. And Kate, I want to thank you again for being here, for brightening up our show and just sharing your beautiful insights and warmth and intelligence with us today. So thank you so much.
What you do, really, thank you for all you do. It's so important to keep these treasures and to share them with generations and generations. We really need to preserve this culture. It's really important.
We say amen to that. Okay, thank you, Kate.
Stick around, won't you? Sing a song with me.
You know, I would love to, Jane, but I'm not wearing any makeup and I am absolutely nothing prepared.
Hit it. Okay. What a melancholy choice this is. Wanting home, wanting him. How can I hope to make you understand what I do, why I must travel to a distant land, far from the home I love. Once I was happily content to be as I was, where I was, close to the people who were close to me, here in the home I love. Who could see that a man would come who would change the shape of my dreams? Helpless now I stand with him, watching older dreams grow dim. Oh, what a melancholy choice this is, wanting home, wanting him, closing my heart to every hope but his, leaving a home I love, love, love. Who could see that a man would come who would change the shape of my dreams? So helpless, now I stand with him, watching all the dreams grow dim. Oh, what a melancholy choice this is, wanting home, wanting him, closing my heart to every hope but his, leaving the home I love, far from the home I love, leaving the home I love, yet there with my love. Oh my gosh, I'm so out of breath.